At my uncle's retirement party, my 19-year-old cousin Angel dropped a bomb that changed everything. For years, our family believed the inheritance was gone invested badly. But Angel uncovered proof that it was stolen by someone we trusted most. The night spiraled into screaming, denial, and shattered relationships. What was supposed to be a celebration became the ugliest family war we've ever had. I swear, my family can't get through one gathering without something blowing up. What happened at my Uncle Daniel's retirement party? That wasn't just drama, that was nuclear. So, picture this. The event was held at this fancy Italian restaurant downtown. Long tables with white tablecloths, candles, champagne flutes, the whole thing looked like a wedding reception. Uncle Daniel, who worked at the post office for 35 years, was grinning ear to ear. My Aunt Patricia was making toast, my mom was crying happy tears, and everyone was reminiscing. For once, it seemed peaceful. Enter Angel. He's my cousin, just 19, and kind of the quiet type. He usually keeps to himself, hoodie pulled up, earbuds in. But that night, he had this fire in his eyes. I should have known something was coming, because he kept pacing outside before dinner, scrolling on his phone like he was waiting for the perfect moment. At first, the night went as planned, speeches, positive laughter. But then Angel stood up right after dessert. He tapped his glass like he was about to give a toast. Everyone chuckled, thinking it was going to be some cheesy jerk. Instead, Angel goes, "Before we all keep celebrating, I need to say something. It's about Grandpa's inheritance." The room went dead silent. My heart dropped into my stomach. Grandpa passed away 10 years ago, and the whole inheritance thing was always this weird, taboo subject. The official story was that the money had been invested and lost by Uncle Daniel, but no one really pressed too hard. Angel's voice shook at first, but he didn't back down. "I found paperwork," he said, holding up his phone. "Bank statements, transfers, dates. The money wasn't invested. It was stolen." You could have heard a pin drop. My Aunt Patricia turned pale. My mom whispered, "Jesus Christ. And Uncle Daniel?" He slammed his fist on the table so hard the wine glasses rattled. "Shut your damn mouth, Angel," he barked, his face red. But Angel didn't. He looked right at him. "You took it. You moved the money into accounts under Patricia's name. I have proof." Chaos. Pure chaos. People yelling over each other. Half the family demanding Angel share the receipts, the other half telling him to sit down and stop ruining the night. Daniel was screaming that it was lies. Patricia started crying, and my mom tried to drag Angel outside to calm down. But Angel shook her off. "No, they've lied to us for 10 years. That money was meant for all of us, and they kept it." At that point, the whole restaurant was stirring. Strangers eating their tiramisu got front row seats to the worst family blow-up of all time. I just sat there frozen, watching the perfect image of our family unravel in seconds. And the worst part? From the look on Daniel's face, I realised Angel wasn't lying. The second Angel dropped that accusation, it was like the air got sucked out of the room. Nobody knew whether to scream, cry, or bowl for the door. I just sat there gripping my glass of water so hard I thought it might shatter. Uncle Daniel's face was the colour of raw steak. He stood up, towering over Angel, and pointed a finger right in his face. "You have no idea what you're talking about. You're just a kid trying to play detective." But Angel didn't flinch. He unlocked his phone, scrolled, and shoved it toward the nurse because my older brother Mark. "Read it, look at the dates. Grandpa died in June 2013. By August, 2 accounts under Patricia's name were suddenly filled with over $250,000. Does this sound like a bad investment to you?" Mark's face went white. He actually muttered, "Holy The table exploded. My mom jumped up, yelling, "Patricia, is this true?" While my aunt clutched her pearls like some kind of soap opera actress. Patricia burst into tears, shaking her head, saying, "It's not what it looks like." Daniel barked, "Don't answer that," like he was her lawyer or something. But Angel kept going. He raised his voice so everyone could hear. "Grandpa wanted that money divided between his kids and grandkids. I've seen the will, but instead of honouring it, you two-pocketed it and pretended it was gone. We grew up struggling while you remodeled your house and took vacations to Italy." At that, a couple cousins started whispering because Daniel and Patricia did always seem to have money for random luxuries despite Daniel's modest post office salary. Then came the tipping point. My grandmother, who's in her late 70s, slammed her hand on the table. She almost never speaks above a whisper, but she said, "Clear as day. I told Daniel to manage that money. I trusted him. Are you telling me you stole from your own family?" You could see Daniel crack. His eyes darted everywhere, his hands trembling. Patricia was sobbing into her napkin, muttering, "We had no choice. We had debts." Angel shot back, "You had a choice. You could have been honest." By now, the restaurant staff was hovering awkwardly, and other diners were pretending not to stare but totally eavesdropping. My little cousin Jenna was crying, begging everyone to stop fighting. Daniel finally yelled, Fine, we took the money, but what did you expect us to do? Your grandfather didn't know what he was doing with his finances. We needed it more than you ungrateful kids." That confession hit like a grenade. Half the family gasped, the other half started screaming. My mom sat down in shock, covering her mouth. Angel, though, just crossed his arms. "So you admit it, you've been lying to us for a decade." Daniel tried to twist it. "We saved the family. If we hadn't taken control, it would have all gone to waste." But no one was buying it anymore. The image of selfless Uncle Daniel was shattered. He looked less like a provider and more like a thief who finally got caught. And the night was only getting started. By the time part 3 of this meltdown started, the restaurant was officially on edge. The waiters were hovering, nervously clutching their trays, and the couple at the table next to us kept sneaking glances like they were watching a reality show. Honestly, it felt exactly like that, except this was real life, and our family was the absolute trainwreck. After Daniel admitted to taking the inheritance, the family literally split into sides. On one side, you had Angel, me, my mum, Mark, and a few cousins who were furious. On the other side, Daniel and Patricia huddled like a defensive fortress, occasionally muttering excuses to justify their actions. Patricia started sobbing louder, pointing at Angel like he was the villain. "He's trusting everything. This isn't fair. You don't understand our sacrifices." Angel's response was sharp, almost scary in its intensity. "Sacrifices? You mean stealing from your own family and pretending we were too stupid to notice? That's not a sacrifice. That's a scam." Daniel slammed his hands on the table again. "Enough, Angel. You think just because you found some papers, you know everything? You don't know how the world works." But Angel wasn't backing down. He pulled out printed copies of bank statements, legal documents, and emails he had painstakingly gathered over the past month. Here, every transfer, every date, I even tracked the spending. This isn't speculation, this is proof. At this point, my younger cousin Emily was quietly crying in the corner. She whispered, "Why do they always lie to us?" And honestly, I couldn't answer her. I just felt my chest tighten with a mix of rage, disbelief, and heartbreak. Then Mark, who had been silent until now, stood up. "I can't believe you do this to Grandpa, to all of us. You manipulated everything to make yourselves look innocent." His voice cracked as he said it. Patricia tried to grab his arm, but he shook her off. "No, I want to see this handled properly. We're not letting you get away with it." Daniel, seeing that the tide was turning, went for the dramatic apology route. I thought I was protecting the family. I never wanted anyone to get hurt. I only wanted stability." Angel laughed bitterly. "Protecting the family? You've been lying for 10 years. The only thing you've protected is your comfort, while the rest of us got nothing." Then came the wildest moment. Daniel, in a last-ditch attempt to regain control, tried to leave the restaurant. Angel blocked the door. "You're not going anywhere until this is sorted." For a second, everyone froze. The staff was shaking, other diners were audibly whispering, and Daniel and Patricia realized they weren't just fighting family, they were fighting a storm. Finally, Uncle Daniel muttered something under his breath that made my mum snap. "We'll see about that in court," she said, and suddenly, the fight escalated into the realm of legal threats, not just screaming. The night turned from chaotic to full-blown legal drama. Angel's evidence had shaken the family to its core, and there was no going back. The tension was palpable, and every whispered accusation or defensive excuse felt like it could ignite another fight at any second. By the time we left the restaurant, nobody was talking. Half of us were in tears, the other half in silence, and I couldn't stop thinking about how our perfect family party had evolved into war. The next part of the night was pure chaos, the climax nobody could have prepared for. After we left the restaurant, some of the family went outside to get air, but Daniel and Patricia stayed behind, refusing to answer calls or texts. Angel wasn't having it. He stormed back in like a storm cloud, dragging my mom with him for backup. The tension inside the restaurant was electric. Patrons were whispering, waiters nervously tiptoeing around, and Daniel finally snapped. He stood up, face red, voice shaking. "You think you can humiliate me in front of everyone? You little brat have no idea what you're talking about." Angel's eyes blazed. "I know exactly what I'm talking about, and everyone else will know too." He turned to the staff, holding up his phone and waving it like a banner. "These aren't rumours, these are facts. Every single transfer, every shady account, every lie you told us for 10 years, all of it. We have proof." Then Patricia, trying to salvage dignity, screamed, "He's lying, you're twisting everything. Angel, don't let him ruin your memory of Grandpa." Angel didn't flinch. Grandpa wanted fairness. He trusted you both to handle his estate honestly, and you stole from an entire family. You lied about the money being lost. You even pretended we couldn't handle it. At that, Daniel lunged toward Angel, probably intending to grab his phone. But Angel sidestepped and raised it higher. The crowd around us gasped. "Stop," yelled my mum, but even she knew this was too late. Then Mark stepped in, shaking with anger, and shouted, "You've lied to us for a decade. You've been stealing from the people who loved you." Patricia, panicked, started sobbing hysterically. "We didn't steal. We just had debts, loans, bills, emergencies, everything went wrong and we didn't know how to tell you." Angel's voice cut through her excuses like glass. "You lied. You deceived every single person in this room, and now it's over. The truth is out. Everyone knows." It was at that moment when the restaurant manager intervened, trying to separate the parties. But Daniel, desperate and humiliated, shouted, "Fine, go ahead. Take everything to court. See if you get a dime." Angel smiled bitterly, like a kid who'd been waiting for this moment his whole life. "We don't need to see if. We already have the evidence, and we're not letting it slide anymore." Everyone froze. Even the other diners could feel the weight of it, the culmination of lies, deception, and betrayal finally exploding in front of their eyes. I looked around and saw the family I grew up with shattered. Faces twisted in disbelief, fear, anger, and heartbreak. Angel, small but unstoppable, stood like a warrior in the middle of it all, holding the truth for everyone to see. For the first time in years, I realized something. No matter how messy or painful, the truth had power. And in that moment, Angel had all the power. The night wasn't over. But the war lines had been drawn, and the family we thought we knew was gone forever. The morning after the retirement party, the fallout hit like a tidal wave. Our group chat, once full of casual memes and birthday reminders, was now a battlefield. Every message was a fight, a defense, or a veiled threat. Even distant relatives who hadn't attended the party got involved, choosing sides without ever seeing the chaos firsthand. Angel, of course, was feeling vindicated but exhausted. He spent the morning printing copies of all the evidence he had gathered, bank statements, emails, even notes from Grandpa's old lawyer. He handed them to my mom and Mark, saying, "We need to be ready. This isn't just about calling them out anymore. We're going to fight for what's ours." Meanwhile, Daniel and Patricia were in full damage control mode. My aunt was calling anyone she could think of to explain or excuse the situation. Daniel, in contrast, barely left his study, muttering under his breath and glaring at anything that moved. I overheard him on the phone saying, "We'll see about this in court. I won't let them take everything." My niece, the lawyer we contacted on Angel's advice, was already drafting the initial claim. "This is strong evidence," he said, flipping through Angel's meticulously organised folder. "If the documents are accurate, and from what I can see, they are, you have a solid case." But even as we prepared for legal action, the emotional tension in the family worsened. My mom cried often and all morning. Mark paced the house muttering about how we'd been lied to, and Angel stayed quiet for long stretches, staring at the ceiling like he was mentally preparing for battle. Then the first confrontation hit. Daniel showed up at our house unannounced, looking dishevelled and angry. "This isn't over," he growled. "You think printing out a bunch of papers makes you winners? You don't know how the law works, and even if you think you have proof, I can fight you every step of the way." Angel calmly walked up to him holding a folder. "We know exactly how it works, and we have everything we need. You lied, you stole, and now it ends. Grandpa trusted you. You broke that trust. You can try to fight it, but the evidence doesn't lie." Daniel's face turned red, and for a moment I thought he might throw a punch. But then Patricia stepped in, begging him to calm down. Daniel, don't make it worse, just breathe. The tension didn't disappear though. The family was fractured as some quietly supporting Angel, some defending Daniel and Patricia, and a few who just wanted to stay out of it entirely. Every conversation, every visit, even simple greetings became loaded with suspicion and resentment. By evening, our lawyer had filed the initial claims, and the real battle had officially begun. Angel seemed to carry a mix of relief and exhaustion. He had finally brought the truth to light, but now we were entering the legal phase and none of us knew how brutal it could get. I watched him sit in my living room, hunched over his laptop, scrolling through more evidence. For a 19-year-old, he looked older, worn down by responsibility, determination, and betrayal. And in that moment, I realized something. This wasn't just about money. It was about reclaiming the family we thought we had, and Angel was leading the charge. Court day arrived faster than anyone expected. The courthouse was this massive, grey building downtown, all marble floors and echoing hallways, and the tension in the air felt like it could choke you. Our family arrived in a mix of quiet anxiety and false confidence. Daniel and Patricia, of course, were putting on their innocent but concerned faces, while Angel walked in with a quiet determination that made my chest tighten with pride. From the start, it was brutal. The judge asked for opening statements, and Daniel, acting like he was still the authoritative uncle we'd grown up with, started talking about financial mismanagement and how he had protected the family's assets. He tried to spin it as though taking the money was some kind of responsibility he should be praised for. Angel's turn came, and he didn't stumble. He calmly laid out everything, Your Honour. My grandfather left an inheritance to be divided fairly among his children and grandchildren. Instead, Daniel and Patricia diverted the funds to accounts under Patricia's name, while telling the rest of the family the money was lost. We have documentation proving this deception. He handed the judge a folder so thick it looked like a brick. Bank statements, emails, invoices, and even a handwritten note from Grandpa stating how the inheritance should be handled, all organised neatly. The judge flipped through the papers, eyebrows rising with each page. Daniel and Patricia exchanged nervous glances, their carefully rehearsed defence starting to crack. You could see it, the first flicker of fear. Then came the explosive moment. The lawyer representing Daniel tried to object, saying Angel's evidence was circumstantial. Angel shot back, pointing to exact transfers. These aren't assumptions. These are facts. Every date, every transaction, every bank statement matches perfectly. You lied to the family for 10 years, and now the truth is undeniable. At that, Daniel lost it. You ungrateful brat. You think a stack of papers means anything? I earned that money through hard work. Angel didn't flinch. No, you didn't earn it. You stole it, and you're going to pay for it. The courtroom erupted into whispers. Even the bailiffs glanced over, trying not to show they were intrigued. My mom sat with her hands trembling, tears running down her face, while Mark muttered under his breath, Finally, someone's standing up to them. The tension escalated when Patricia started crying and wailing, trying to guilt everyone. We only did this for the family. We were protecting everyone. Angel's reply was simple and devastating. Protecting yourself. Maybe, not anyone else. You lied, you deceived, and now it's coming out. Justice isn't about excuses, it's about truth. By the time we left the courthouse, the reality had sunk in. The family we thought we knew was irreversibly fractured. Daniel and Patricia looked defeated, knowing the evidence was too strong, and Angel, though exhausted, had this quiet satisfaction that the truth was finally on the table. The legal battle was far from over, but for the first time in a decade, it felt like our side, Angel's side, was actually winning. Months later, the dust had started to settle, but the family was still raw. Daniel and Patricia had reached a settlement after the court sessions. Most of the inheritance was returned to the rightful heirs, and the rest earmarked for legal fees. No one celebrated. There was too much bitterness, too many tears, and too many broken bonds. Angel, though, had this quiet sense of accomplishment. He wasn't gloating, he just breathed easier, like a weight had finally lifted. I remember sitting with him one evening on the porch, the cool night air carrying the faint hum of city traffic, and he just stared at the horizon. I can't believe it's finally over, he said softly. You did it, Angel, I replied. You took on everyone and made them face the truth. He shrugged, looking almost embarrassed by the praise. I just couldn't let them lie forever. Grandpa trusted them, and they stole from all of us. I had to do something. Even though the inheritance was partially recovered, the family dynamics had changed forever. Some relatives refused to speak to Daniel and Patricia, while others were cautious, like walking on eggshells. My mom was angry, but proud. Mark was still simmering with indignation, but relieved that Angel's evidence had prevailed. At the first family gathering after the legal resolution, the tension was palpable. No one wanted to sit too close to Daniel or Patricia, and everyone kept glancing at Angel like he was birth hero and threat. But the most striking moment came when Grandpa's old lawyer, retired now, but still close to the family, came over and shook Angel's hand. You did what needed to be done, he said. Your grandfather would have been proud. Angel's face softened. For once, he smiled without worry or anger. He had done more than just uncover a lie. He had restored justice in a family that had been manipulated for years. Still, the emotional scars remained. Daniel and Patricia were allowed to attend family events, but in a diminished role. They no longer wielded the influence they once did, and their attempts to justify themselves were met with polite but cold silence. The family was fractured, yes, but Angel had restored fairness and transparency, and that gave everyone else the strength to start rebuilding trust, however slowly. Looking back, I realized that night at the retirement party changed everything. What was supposed to be a celebration turned into a battlefield, and for weeks afterward, emotions ran high like lava. But Angel, my quiet, stubborn, determined cousin, stood his ground. He showed us that even a 19-year-old could expose decades of lies, demand accountability, and fight for what's right. The inheritance may have been money, but the real victory was the truth. And in a family built on lies and deception, the truth was the most valuable inheritance of all. Angel had done more than anyone could have imagined. He had rewritten the story of our family.